Welcome to the Growth Lab, where business ambition meets motherhood. I'm Luba, a mom of three, a self-made millionaire, speech-language pathologist, and founder of 2 clinics and sensory play gyms and a mobile therapy bus unit. Join me each week as we dive into what it takes to grow successful business, balance family, and create real impact. I'll share my hard-won insights and bring on inspiring entrepreneurs with stories you won't want to miss. Let's turn dreams into action, build with purpose, and thrive on our own terms. Welcome to the Growth Lab. Let's build, scale, and thrive together. Let's get this party started.
Today's episode is extra special to me. I want to dedicate it to my mom and my grandma. My mom was always my number one hero, number one supporter, and I love and miss her every day. And this is one of her favorite quotes that we always lived by together. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Today is a little bit of a different episode. It is a solo, and it's pretty personal, probably the most personal one that I will ever share. And I almost didn't record this because some stories are very hard to say out loud. I know I'm not the only one walking around with grief tucked behind a strong face. So this one is for anyone who's ever kept going when the world fell apart. And for the ones who showed up, smiled, worked, parented, and kept moving while their heart was silently breaking and broken. So just a few weeks ago, and I quote, I'm making air quotes, we celebrated the 3-year anniversary of my mother's passing. And this July will be 4 years since my grandmother, my mom's mom, passed. And while it doesn't seem to get easier, and I wish so badly for them to be here with me, I did want to share my story for anyone else out there. And I hope that you will all want to share and accept this as a sign of comfort. Obviously, having success is lovely. It's hard work, but it's not always the complete picture, as there's so much to this life. And sadly, losing the ones that you love, sometimes way too soon, definitely builds character in people. And a lot of you don't know my story, maybe that I had loss, but in 2021, my grandma, who was a lifelong breast cancer survivor and later many other cancer survivor, she went weak. She was hospitalized a while, and prior to that, she kept refusing to go to the hospital because she said they will kill her there. Despite her fears, she was ill and needed attention. So when she ended up in the hospital, we all knew that it was a bad sign. And at that time, I was super pregnant and not allowed to even visit my grandma because in my culture, and this may seem cold or harsh, but in my culture, pregnant women should look at beautiful things, enjoy nature, not be surrounded by illness, hospitals, and ultimately death. And I think that that's true to say about many cultures, not just mine, but it's just not allowed. When you're pregnant, they want you to only see the beautiful things. So my mom at the time was spending endless days and nights with my grandma. She was still working. She was caring for everyone else. And then finally, unfortunately, my grandmother passed away. We thought that my mom would finally catch a break, but my grandma actually passed on her birthday. It was July 8th. And then exactly 1 month following my grandmother's passing, my mom found out that she has cancer. And when she first told us, she acted like it was unclear, or maybe that it wasn't cancer, or she wasn't even sure. But anyway, at the time, it all literally sounded like Chinese to me. And slowly things got worse and worse as the story unfolded. And within 9 months, my mom was gone. I had just had a baby. My little Donnie was 4 months old when she passed away. And like I was saying, I was pregnant through it all between the time my grandma died to my mom. And it was something really different, growing life while saying goodbye to both of the women who shaped my life. It felt impossible. It felt like we were living 2 realities at once, one full of joy and new beginning, and the other one filled with unbearable endings. And there was no space or time to stop. There was no time to really grieve. I had a baby to carry, I had kids to raise, a business to run, and a family to hold together. Giving birth to my third child while my mom was getting sicker was so difficult for me and for my mom. This was the first child that she didn't greet in the delivery room. In fact, we were FaceTiming me and my newborn at the hospital while my mom was also at the hospital, just a different one. It was really a mess, a sad, sad mess. And I actually remember very clearly the day that my mom came to meet Donnie. It was 3 days after we got home and she had gotten out of the hospital and driven herself to my house, which at the time was like such a big deal. And I have this picture of her on my bed. My daughter was sitting, laying to the left of her, my older son to the right, and she's in the middle of the two of them holding the baby, and she's crying. And it's a really sad but very special picture for me. And she told me then, and she told me many times through all of this, she would say, I'm not afraid of dying, but I'm so afraid to miss out. And I think for me, I will never be able to let go of that sadness because I understood her and I felt so badly. I felt her pain. I recorded this kind of in parts so you could better understand my story. And this piece is called Holding It All Together. Grief doesn't always look like tears. And sometimes it looks like showing up to work, cooking dinner, smiling at clients. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Everyone needed me, and somehow I became the strong one, the one who made sure that things didn't fall apart, but yet I was falling apart quietly. In the car, after bedtime, in the in-between moments when no one saw. And that's the thing about being a mom myself, an entrepreneur, and a caregiver. You don't get the luxury of crumbling. You just carry it all, and even when it's really heavy. I kind of just went on about my way, and I think that this aided me in getting where I am today. Ironically, I also feel some intense heat right now as I'm recording this on my left side. So hi, Mom. I think she's here hugging me. I just have to use my spidey spiritual senses, and I always feel my mom. I think also handling this thing truly brought me back to the basics that I was always taught in my life. My parents together, they lived many lives. They are seasoned students of life, I call them. And we all should be seasoned students of life. But in my early years, they always, like, anytime I had a situation, they never said to me that they didn't understand me. They always explained to me that they had been there and they get it. And I think that this really shaped me to always be accepting of what is in front of me. And this is a big piece of how I am in my work and my business and my mindset, because we were never the type of family that stopped life to deal with things. We dealt as they came. We conquered. We just could do it all. And that is how I am today. And I absorbed this from my wonderful parents. And you kind of just keep going no matter how bad you want to fall apart. And it's not that I wasn't allowed to fall apart. It's just not what I do. It's not how I run my life. Instead, I think when I'm in a difficult situation, I bring myself together. So it's a little bit backwards. But in times when I want to fall apart, I bring myself together. And I think, I think about everything that's happening to me, but I don't dwell on it. I don't allow myself to fall into the hole. And I just kind of get out of it. And I'm always able to move forward. And it's not easy, but this is a learned habit from childhood. And you always move forward. And I think that my mom's passing really affected me, and it still does every day. But I never let it stop my life. And I always, and I hear my mom telling me that I have to move forward. And I remember being with her, in the end, and she would make a lot of comments to me about what she thought when she could still talk. She would, tell me what she wanted me to do, how she wanted me to behave with my dad, how she wanted me to think about certain things. And looking back on everything, I think she was preparing me to continue to move forward. And I am so grateful to her for that. Now let's talk a little bit about the doctors, the system. So being on the other side of the healthcare system and watching my mom decline, navigating the appointments, asking questions I already knew the answers to, this was a different kind of pain. And I myself am a provider. I know how this works, but nothing prepares you for being the daughter in the room. And it shifted something in me. It made me softer with my patients, more present with their parents, because now I know what it's like to feel helpless in the face of medicine. There's a lot to say about what I witnessed and endured. And I actually don't want to get into that or the blame game of the system versus what the patient's needs were. But I will say I did rescue my mom from the hospital and brought her home to be with all of us, which was not the recommendation of the hospital at the time, but I didn't care. I still stand by my decision. And in that terrible time, I actually didn't even know or understand the questions that I needed to be asking. I was so lost in all of this. But I also had to be a leader because my dad, my go-to, he was also lost. And I had to call upon a friend, you know who you are, who unfortunately knew this painful place. And I asked her very simply, what do I need to ask? What do I need to say? What do I need to do? And she told me the truth. And the worst question of them all, and it was so politely stated, but actually it was super crushing. This question was, what is my mother's life expectancy? And I'll let that sit with you for a second, but yikes. When you have to ask your mother's life expectancy. And I remember this awful feeling like yesterday. But with this information that I received, which had not yet been ever communicated to me or my dad or my brother or my family, and before that moment, and unfortunately, they went immediately and called my dad. He received a call at work that day that your daughter is here demanding answers of us. And from that point on, they actually ended up changing the point of contact to me, not my dad, because we felt that I would be the better point of contact for this situation. But the point is that not me, not my dad, not my brother, nobody in our immediate family, not my mom's sister, not my dad's sister, not my mom's best friend, no one knew clearly what was happening. No one knew that my mom was dying so rapidly. And maybe my mom knew, but she kept it from all of us. And this was that turning point where we all really just dropped bottom when we found out. And it was devastating because it was just too late. And my mom was unfortunately in so much pain. And not all people that have cancer are in pain, nor are they immediately dying. There are so many different cancers and many different situations. But in our case, this is when we knew, and it was shattering. And I wish that I could have supported my mom differently. And looking back, I often feel very guilty for this time because unfortunately, I didn't know any better. I didn't know the full picture. It was so hard to understand. And there were so many things happening, and it just hurts to really rehash that because I didn't understand at the time what my mom needed, the type of support she needed. And I would sometimes try to encourage her. I would tell her, Mom, like, let's get out of bed, let's do this, or let's go buy you something to make you feel better, or come on, not everybody lays around in pain or whatever. And I just didn't understand. And it's very hard to look back now because when you don't know the full picture, when you've never been in a situation and you're not prepared, the type of support that you think the person might need, like encouragement, is actually the wrong type of support. And it's hard to say that because there's no really wrong support. But at the time, I think my mom she just wanted to be with us. She would say things like, I just want to spend more time with you. And maybe the support of like pursuing her to step outside or do something was just not what she needed. So obviously it's very difficult to look back on that time because we just didn't know. And your grief, it really doesn't ever end. I think grief just changes. Some days I feel fine, and other days I hear her favorite song or I catch a glimpse of my mom and my daughter's smile, and it really knocks the wind out of me because my mom's been gone for 3 years, and that still feels completely nuts to say out loud. I think time is super weird. It makes things easier, yet harder. and you heal a little, but you also realize just how deeply the absence runs, and you move forward. But the missing really never fades. It's literally always 25 times worse when it's a holiday or a big event or her birthday or my birthday, or really any time that we're celebrating. You could just really feel that emptiness, that absence. Or even any time I've had success in my work. There's a little quote recently, it's circulating again, that your mom is your biggest cheerleader and she claps so loud that you never notice who doesn't. And that is so real for me. My mom was always my biggest cheerleader, both my parents, but my mom was always my everything, is my everything. And I think because she believed in me so much, I always felt so empowered. And even now, when I do something, I just want to call her and tell her or share it with her. But I always hope she's watching. And oddly, like, I often still look for her or have the urge to call her and tell her something, like I was saying, whether it's good or bad, because she was always my person. And I think that is the hardest, the feeling alone without your person, because no matter who else you have, you don't have them. But here I am. I'm still standing, still building, still raising these babies, or now actually big, huge kids. Mom, I wish you could see them. I think we're all making her really proud. And I think grief and this loss really cracked me open, but it didn't destroy me. It taught me how to live life with tenderness, how to keep going without pretending I'm okay all the time. It taught me that strength is not about breaking, and it's really about rebuilding again and again. And if you're someone out there who's grieving, I want you to hear this. You are not alone, and you don't have to rush your healing. You don't have to be okay just because time has passed. You're allowed to feel better and worse at the same time if you need to. But importantly, you need to take time for yourself, because sometimes you need to just be alone with literally no one else. But there's no right or wrong way to grieve. You need to just do what's best for you. And ironically for me, it meant moving forward and being with people. I never really spent the time alone. I wanted to celebrate my mom's life always. And today, anytime, I do anything, I dedicate it to her because she was always my hero. I just want to thank you so much for letting me share this with you, for holding this space with me. It's not easy for me. I tried to be as little emotional as I could, but if this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story. Please send me a message. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it. And remember that your strength is not in your ability to get over something. It's in your decision to keep living, keep loving, keep showing up, and even with a broken heart. So until next time, be gentle with yourself. I love you all. I'm sending huge hugs your way. And thanks for listening to the Growth Lab podcast, because being able to grow within yourself and your business, it's not just about the day-to-day tasks of being an entrepreneur, but it's about real life. And this is my real life.